Okay, in the last video, I rebuilt my G07 monitor and my Defender. And the same time that I noticed this monitor went bad, I also noticed this monitor went bad. Now, this is in my punch-out, and if you look, you might even be able to see it in the Defender video. But, looks like I'm going to have to recap it. I cannot adjust this in. So I'm going to have to figure out. Now, when it's if it sits off for a while, you turn it on. The picture's perfect, and then it eventually morphs into this. So I guess we're going to be rebuilding a Sanyo EZV 20. Now, this is the same monitor in Donkey Kong. So if you need to rebuild your Donkey Kong monitor, watch this video, and maybe you'll learn something, or maybe it's just entertainment for you. Okay, I'm going to tear this monitor down. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get, you know what? If I had a longer screwdriver, I wouldn't have to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. You'll want to discharge your tube. That's good enough. Okay. Now, I usually use solder because it's usually handy, but any old wire will do it. Just discharge. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tear it down. Remember to save all your screws. Taking a screw off over here. There's another screw on this side. Pick up on this and pull out. And I'm going to take the screws off down here. Now, I have a kit for a Sanyo EZV 20, but this is actually a Z2AW or something like that. But it's basically the same thing. A rebuild kit from a 20 will work. But just in case, every time you take out a capacitor, always look at what the values are in case something is different on your specific monitor. Okay, now unplug the video on here. Because there is some differences on this monitor. Now, they're going to remove this cable here. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. Okay, now, hopefully you can see that in the video. So I'm going to take out this guy. And the sound amplifier. Now, there's two plugs on our sound amplifier. One is labeled, they're both labeled JC and JB. Now, if you do not put them back in the same spot, there's silk screen on the board and a silk screen on the plugs. If you don't put them back in the exact same spot, you can damage the monitor, and you can damage your board. So you don't want neither of those to happen. But okay, I'm gonna remove this guy. ground. I'm going to pull the neck board. There's going to be all these little ties that kind of hold the monitor. They're going to need to be all taken off. And you do have a ground right here, a ground screw, and a ground terminal. We're going to take that out. And down here, there's little tabs. A lot of times these are, remember, the monitor you're working on is 30 plus years old. And as I'm taking them off, they're busting. But that's okay. Okay. Now, underneath it, you know what? Looks like someone had this monitor apart before. Because underneath, you should be able to find a screw right here. But it looked like somebody had this apart before and didn't bother putting a screw in. You don't need it, but it's kind of nice to put all the parts back. Basically just pick up. And I'm going to see if I can do this without taking it entirely out. I'm probably going to have to do it anyways. But yeah, I'm going to take it out. Okay, you got to pull your decals cable. Just make sure you pull out all the cables. Don't forget to pull out your yoke cable. See, EZV20s are kind of a pain in the ass because there's a bunch of clips all over the monitor that hold the wires down. Now, right before I decided to make this video, I looked on YouTube and I seen that there's like 3 or so, or more maybe, different videos of people already doing this. So my goal is to not take too long at this. Maybe I could make a video that won't take two hours or so. Maybe we can get this done quickly. But there are clips all over this monitor. And what I'm doing is I'm just removing the wires from all these clips. Just so I can take this out. Don't forget to pull this plug too. But this is your audio amplifier. I'm going to set it aside. I don't even think I'm going to rebuild it because I did have good sound coming out of that monitor. Now, Nintendo games, they use the audio amplifier. It was built into the monitor. Get this chassis out. Okay. work area a little neater looking. Okay. Probably should have took this tablecloth off. Jeez. Okay, so as I said in another video, these rebuild kits. See, I get my rebuild kits from Arcade Shop, and and these rebuild kits usually have a picture. So you're going to want to align the picture up with the physical chassis. So I got my chassis out. Here's all my transistors. And let me get up and let me look at the camera to make sure we're even pointing at what I'm doing. Yeah, let me get a little closer. Okay, it's a little better. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, the very first thing I pull out of this bag is a 100 microfarad at 160 volts. So, I'm going to find it on this paper. And one of them is C410. So let's find C410. It's right here. I'm going to go ahead and mark that off now. We're going to desolder it. Now, most of the time, you don't even have to desolder. In other words, you don't need a solder sucker usually. See how I made those holes? Hopefully. Okay, pay attention to which way it came out. You want your positive side to go where the positive side was, and your negative side to go where the negative side was. I have that cap put in. Okay. I already marked that off. Let's grab another capacitor out of the bag. It looked like somebody may have recapped this in the past, but now it's due for it again. 330 at 25 volts. 330 at 25 volts over here is 468. Right here, right here. Okay. So I'm going to pull this guy. That's pulled. Negative on the bottom. That's been replaced. 468, let's mark it off. Okay. Basically, just keep on doing this until all have been replaced. Now we have a 100 microfarad at 160 volts. C472. C472, this guy right here. Now, don't just go by the picture. Make sure you see in the silk screen. Make sure the silk screen reads the same numbers that you think you're pulling. And make sure the capacitor you pulled has the same values of the capacitor you're putting in. Because you might get tricked on different locations, you know. Okay. Now on the Sanyo monitors, there's going to be a line silk screened through one of the capacitor holes. That's going to be negative. And also on the bottom underside of the board, there's going to be a plus mark and a negative mark. Now, the negative mark goes, all electrolytics that you're going to find today are going to be marked
on the capacitor themselves, what side is positive and negative. Okay, see, 472, I got that marked off. Let's grab the next capacitor. Okay, and I have 250 volt at 1 microfarad. This guy here, C408 is one of them. Let's find C408 right here. Okay. Let's pull this guy. Now this monitor is basically an EZ20, but it's been, over the years, it's been upgraded. It's the latest model. The last model of the EZ20. It's actually a different model, but the major parts are all the same. See, now this actually has a bad solder joint right there. Right on it already. So that's good to know. Look like whoever did a cap kit last on this maybe overheated it. Okay, I got that out. I'll put the new one in. And we're going to have to patch that up when we come back to it. That's C408. Mark it off here. I like to mark these off because it lets you know if you got all the parts. And if you ever mark off, if you ever see an extra one, and sometimes it'll help you know if you mixed anything up. Okay, now we have a 10 microfarad at 250 volts right here. C407 is one of them. So let's try to find C407. This guy right here. And I already see it. Okay. I'm going to pull this. Now, keep checking your caps. Make sure you're not replacing the wrong value. And just kind of to open it up. I'm not going to solder anything in until all caps are in. Okay, so I have a 10 microfarad at 250 volts. It's another one. I'm going to mark off C407. Now look for C471. Okay, C471 is over here. I'm going to go ahead and mark that off now. And that would be this guy right here. Okay, did I mark on 471? I think I did. Yes, okay. Let me grab another capacitor. 220 microfarad at 25 volts. That's C469. Let me find C469. 4, 6, 7, 4, 6, 9. There it is. 4, 6, 8. Where is it? 4, 6, 9. Okay, that's in. Okay, let me mark that. Four, 6, 9. Okay, that's about half of them. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up myself, and then I'm going to tell you how to adjust your B+. And maybe I'll talk about different things you can do as other troubleshooting measures. But okay, all of my capacitors have been replaced, and I know that because they're all marked. And let me talk about repairs with this monitor. Okay, you know what? First off, usually I would say 98 times out of 100, your B+ voltage, which would be the voltage that you would set on this monitor, which controls other voltages all across the board in this monitor. It's supposed to be 108 volts, but 98% of the time, it's good right out of the box. I'm still going to test it, but this is what you do. You see this this test point that says BJ? See that? BJ? You know what? You're probably looking at it sideways. BJ. You're going to want to connect something to it. Alligator clip or whatever. And you're going to want to put that on your multimeter and put the other on the chassis. Find a ground. But you can get away with like the metal that your flyback's mounted on, or this connector right here, or whatever. But you can also just connect it right to the chassis, the metal on the chassis. And you're going to want to test and make sure it's 108 volts. Now it could be plus or minus, I'd say, I don't know, plus or minus 10%. But really 108 is what they set it at. You might as well put it to 108. Rarely should you, I mean, normally you maybe just might kick it up, kick it a little bit, you know. Usually you don't have to mess with it. But if you do have to mess with it, that means more than likely something is wrong. And then you may have to look at the schematics and go further down the rabbit hole. Now, I will tell you some common replacement things that you would do to this monitor. If you're having trouble with voltage, right here is your voltage regulator. And they still sell this on eBay and whatever. But if you really want to go through a monitor, on one of these monitors, and go through a bunch of stuff, I'm ready to sneeze. I'm holding back a sneeze. Okay. That's one thing that I bought these in bulk a while ago, and I have a bunch of them. I don't know where they're at, but I replaced those, and then you definitely need to change your B+. Definitely. But flybacks, they sell flybacks for this. These are not bulletproof flybacks. There are certain games that have extremely dependable flybacks. Say Asteroids, for example. Thank God, you know. But this isn't the best. I've seen them jump from here all the way down this ferrite into the ground and all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, you have two transistors that can go commonly on this. You have a transistor over here, and you have a transistor over here. Now, this is a common problem. Well, it's scraped off I don't remember what the model number was. But when you have your EZV20 out, check this transistor. I'm trying not to get too complicated. And oh, you know what? If you make the mistake of connecting your, okay, you see this connector right here, JC, and you see this other one right here, JB. If you do make the mistake of connecting those in the wrong spot, because they will plug into the wrong spots, what you need to do is right around this area here. Now this is where your video plugs into the monitor. It's going to blow a diode somewhere around here. And what you want to do is you want to look at the schematics, and well, you could test every one of these diodes too, but it could have gone past a diode. Check the schematics and follow where everything comes in. It's going to be right around this area. It will not get past this area where the damage will happen. Now also, let's say if you're running a Donkey Kong board set, green. I did it one time where I plugged it in the wrong way, and the transistor that drives green went out on the Donkey Kong board. So I would check all three colors. I think they were, I want to say 3904s or 3906s, like an easy to find transistor. But it will damage your monitor and board, and you'll see sparks. You know, so do not hook those two connectors up in the wrong spots. So all right, let me put this all back together. Oh, you know what? Let me flip this over. I kind of need to solder all this stuff on now. Okay. I think I got a cold coming on here. Okay. Got me solder. Going to solder all these one by one. Now, this kit does not have all capacitors in it, but not all these capacitors are crucial for the monitor to work. But sometimes you have to diagnose past. See, they give you what usually is the major problems. Also, there's one large capacitor on most monitors, if not all. And it's going to be a low capacitance, semi-low capacitance. It's going to be a huge high voltage. For example, let me flip this over and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, if I flip this over, you see this big capacitor right here? This does not come in any kit that I know of for most monitors. But this big capacitor, it doesn't go bad normally. Not very common, but it has gone bad, and I've seen them go bad. Now, if you have a picture, and you recap the monitor, and you still see a wave in the picture, or a bar that goes down, you can, and you know all the caps are good, replace this cap, whatever the value may be on your monitor. Now, I have, in many circumstances, used an old cap off of an old power supply, or, believe it or not, I get these caps off of LCD TVs, broken LCD TVs. If it's like 5 years old, I'll throw it in. But also with this cap, you can overdo it. Now, whatever I tell you, don't blame me if you break your machine. But I mean, I've overdone these caps twofold before, and it's okay. It's a filtration cap. It's okay. You don't want to oversize just any old cap. You might want if you ever decide to put the wrong capacitance cap in your machine, look at the schematics first and make sure it makes sense before you start changing things. But in general, power supply capacitors, you can oversize. If you have, let's say, a Wheaton Bridge rectifier circuit, and then a capacitor, and then that goes to a voltage regulator or whatever, generally you can oversize that. But if you don't know what you're doing, go with the original parts. Okay. One of these days, I'm going to have to get a better camera. This is ridiculous. I try my best at messing with lighting, all kinds of stuff. And my phone is a terrible camera. I'm going to have to... What do you guys think about GoPro? Is GoPro the way to go? I don't know. Okay. Did I get them all? It looks like I got them all. Okay. Now I get a tool that looks like this guy. And I'm going to go through. I'm going to cut all these leads off. You can't bend them back and forth, but I don't like to do it. I like to cut it whenever possible, because bending them back and forth till they break off can cause a cold soldering joint or a bad soldering joint. And watch where the rest of your leads are pointing. Make sure they're not going to touch anything. Pay attention to all that and do a final visual inspection before you even put the machine together. Just to make sure nothing's touching, you don't have any solder blobs going anywhere. Because, especially if you're a novice at this, you really don't want to cause any more problems, because I've been there. You could you just give up totally. I quit on a monitor that is really easy for someone else to fix. Okay, I got all those cut off. Oh, we got one more. Okay. And there was one capacitor. Look at this. Looks like somebody added an extra wire here. Okay. I'm gonna turn the camera off, and we're gonna put this back together. Okay. I fell asleep on my chair, and I woke up, and my wife actually put the monitor back together and put it back in punch out. Well, she was working on putting it back in punch out when I woke up. But the part I did not show you was the monitor. Oh, well, you know, all right. Right now the monitor works perfect, but the issue was not the monitor. And I could have figured this out if I would have just switched the video cables between the two monitors, but I did not. So the problem was not the monitor. What I did, though, I have some extra punch-out boards here, and there is some battery acid damage that was on my punch-out board. And what I did is, I could have just fixed it, but I had a cleaner board. So I got the board in the sink, and I cleaned it up, and I just swapped it out. But let me see if I can get a close-up of some of the battery damage. It's not like it can't be fixed. But I had an issue with the sink, the wire that does sink. Also, these dip switches were just dead in the water. They didn't do anything. Which, you know, I kind of like to use the dip switches, right? But, okay, I will show you the monitor.
in the arcade. Okay, there's the Defender I just did the G07 on, and right here, see if you can see that. There's the bottom monitor that was acting up, but unfortunately, problem really isn't the monitor. But at least I know it's been rebuilt. There's the top monitor. It's been rebuilt, so whatever. So, long story short, if you have any issues with Player's Choice 10s or Punch-Outs, any dual monitor machine, you might as well just swap. You already have a built-in test rig. Just swap in the video cables and see if it's the board or if it's the monitor. In this case, it was the board. I thought it was the monitor. So, all right.